70 years before Magellan, Islam was already planted here. Nandito na yung mga evangelist. So when Spain said, kunin ko pati Mindanao, and I would call the forefather.
Ang dokumentaryong ito ay ginawa sa pangunguna ng Mercy Islamic Foundation sa layuning iparating sa mga tao ang tungkol sa katotohanan ng kasaysayan ng Islam sa Pilipinas. Na ang Islam ay ang relihiyon ng ating mga ninuno at kung paano sila dumating, namuno at nawala sa kapangyarihan sa ating bansa. Pinamagatan namin itong Call of Our Forefathers upang mabatid ng ating mga kababayan ang mga ikinubli sa ating kasaysayan at malaman natin ang panawagang pangkultura at paniniwala ng ating mga ninuno. Maraming salamat at samahan niyo po kami sa paglalakbay tungo sa ating kasaysayan.
At the end of the 16th century and in the first decades of the 17th century, political alliances with neighboring Muslim principalities against the creeping of Western colonization and Christianization, as well as the consistent arrivals of teachers or propagators, further guaranteed the preservation of Islam in Sulu. The coming of Islam in Mindanao is credited to the arrival of Sharif Muhammad Kabungsuan. He was of Arab Malay ancestry and a native Muslim teacher from Johor, Malaysia. He landed first at Malabang in Lanao del Sur in the year 1515 and proceeded to Cotabato. Out of his marriages with the local maidens, he was able to establish the first sultanate of Maguindanao and Buayan, with him as the first sultan. Another tradition, this time from Lanao, speaks of Sharif Alawi, who came possibly by way of Maguindanao to Lanao del Sur up the mouth of Taguluan River in the present-day Misamis Oriental and proceeded afterwards to Bukidnon. There are evidences that indicate that as early as the last years of the 15th century, Islam was already gaining headway in many places in the Philippines. It was carried directly from or via Sulu or Mindanao by propagators, traders, or voyagers from Borneo who settled among the inhabitants of the islands. Aside from Manila, Islam had already gained ground in Batangas, Pampanga, Cagayan, Mindoro, Palawan, Catanduanes, Bonbon in Cebu, Oton in Iloilo, Laguna, and other districts. What is metropolitan Manila today was formerly the stronghold of Islam. Manila was ruled by Raja Sulaiman, Raja Matanda, and Tondo under the rule of Raja Lacandula. Manila was not the only commercial hub having a powerful fort which was built near the mouth of the Pasig River in defense of the territory. It was to the Islamized natives of Manila that the word Moro was first applied by the Spaniards in 1570 to denote those who professed Islam. Originally, the term Moro was derived from the Greek word Mauros, which means dark or brown-skinned. This originally referred to the people of North Africa who were of Berber, Sahawari, and Arab racial mix, and conquered Spain for more than 7 centuries.
The coming of the Spaniards also, coming of Spain, of Christianity to us in Mindanao, the product of the Reconquista. The Muslims in Spain were under the Moors for 900 years, 800 plus, let's say 900 years. So when they expelled the Moors, that's why we are called Moros.
On the other hand, the term Indio first denoted the pagan natives, but was later to include even the Christianized natives. It was only in later years, more specifically in 1578 and after, that the name Moro was generally applied to the Muslims of Mindanao and Sulu.
Later on, when there was a need to refer to we have these different ethnic groups, ethno-linguistic groups who were converted to Islam. And then later on, there was a need to feel, how do we call the totality of these Muslim groups? We have the Maranao, the Stausu, the Sama, the Yakan, the Kuribugan, the Maguindanao, the Erano, and so on. But when we group them together, what will be their identity? It is there where I think political leaders, sensing that there is a need to have, identity, borrowed the term Moro. Although the term Moro was given by the Spaniards, yes, to refer to the Islamized people of Mindanao. So at the beginning, the term Moro was not really very good because it refers to the pirates. The Spaniards refer them as the Moros are pirates. They are so on and so forth. But later on, contemporary revolutionary leaders like Misuari and so on find the term more, more challenging. The term is more appropriate to the Moros because the Moros, since the time the Spaniards came, have been fighting for the preservation of their independence.
In his journal, Sucesos de las Islas de Filipinas, Antonio de Morga wrote, "A few years before the Spaniards subdued the island of Luzon, certain natives of the island of Borneo began to go to that direction to trade, especially to the settlement of Manila and Tondo, and the inhabitants of one island intermarried with those of the other. Had the Spaniards' coming been delayed longer, that religion would have spread throughout the island and even through the others, and it would have been difficult to remove it." In a lamenting statement, Carmen Guerrero Nakpil said, "It is hard to believe that Manila was once firmly under Muslim heel. Muslims controlled the seat of government, the wealth and the trade up and down the Pasig and around Bai Lake in Batangas, as well as the sea lanes to Mindanao and Borneo. The Muslims were the ruling class in Luzon, the rich traders, cultural leaders, and missionaries, the ones with the know-how and the right connections, the literacy, and what's more, the right religion."
It is much better during that time rather than today, because they were masters of their own. The sultanates, the Patapangampong Coronao, were existing as political entities, and they know of any higher master except themselves. And even in terms of economic, they are better off, because in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, they control the international trade. But now, somebody is deciding for us. It is new. It's the new colonizer in Manila, what we call now, correctly or wrongly, Imperial Manila. So I would say, with very much clarity, that the lives of the Moros during those times is better than their lives today.
Robert Day McAmis, in his book Malay Muslims, The History and Challenge of Resurgent Islam in Southeast Asia, he wrote, "Some anthropologists hold that Islam arrived in southern Philippines at the end of the 14th century, but they differ on the manner it was introduced. This was a peaceful invasion of Arabian merchants and teachers who intermarried with the families of local rulers. Before the coming of Spain, bringing with it the cross and the sword, the whole archipelago was already controlled and managed by well-organized, civilized, and well-recognized busy Islamic states. The Sultanate of Sulu, the Sultanate of Maguindanao and Buayan, and the Kingdom of Manila.
And you notice that from 1380, when Karimul Makdum came, to 1521, when Magellan discovered the Philippines, that's about 141 years. That's more than 1 century. There was no war between Muslims who were propagating Islam and the people who were receiving Islam and accepting Islam, which proves to us, one sense for all, that the spread of Islam in the country was not by virtue of sword, but it was by virtue of the intellectual capacity and power of the Islamic teachings that were adopted by the early natives of the Philippines, who then became Muslims themselves.
The colorful epic and unfolding historical saga of Islam will tell us that we, both Muslims and non-Muslims, can come to terms to achieve peace and harmony in the Philippines. Tolerance and mutual respect is the key to this effort. Assalamu alaikum.